call the meeting to order. Jen, will you take roll call, please?
Here.
Commissioner Walter?
Here.
Commissioner Thel?
Here.
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
And Mayor Lindsay, or Mayor Denner.
Oh.
Here.
Have that again.
We have the agenda in front of us.
I make a motion we adopt the agenda and scratch number 4 on new business.
I second that.
Do I have any further comment, discussion? Not? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Under acknowledgement and appearance. Number 1, acknowledge petition for vacating of street portion of Northeast A Street.
I thought we were going to renew the street vacation.
Yeah. Sorry.
You read it right.
Yeah, I knew what it was supposed to be.
I'll move.
Where's this going to be located?
Chad, did you want to touch on this before we bring anybody up from the audience who wants to speak on it? Is it gallery?
I can just stand by for
Okay.
questions and fill in the blanks
Okay.
after any parties are here to speak to that.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Johnson told me it was a gallery, so do we have anybody in the gallery that wants to come up and speak?
Is it not appropriate?
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor.
Hello.
My name is Dick Erickson. I'm appearing for Dakota State University. We have been working with the City Engineer's Office on this matter. We wanted to present this the petition tonight to the Commission, but with the understanding that normally, if you acknowledge the petition, we would probably go ahead and notice it for hearing. But when we're vacating a street like this, there's the question about the utilities in the street. And with that, an easement would be required if the vacation petition was granted. And with that, we have to take that easement through negotiations up to the Board of Regents and then ultimately to the Commissioner of School and Public Lands and the Governor for signatures. So what we'd like to do would be to have you acknowledge the petition, but work with the city, talk to Jen and also Chad about coming up with a date certain as to when we would want to have the hearing on the petition, so that would coincide with consideration for the easement when that would be negotiated. Probably December would be the earliest, possibly the 23rd of December. The Board of Regents meets at 11th and 12th of December, and quite possibly into January. But we would work to give the appropriate notice pursuant to statute. So that's all we're asking for, is just to have it acknowledged this tonight.
So we have an easement that we've mutually agreed upon at this level anyway?
Well, it's being worked on
Okay.
with the city attorney and Chad and my office.
So really you're just asking to acknowledge it?
Just acknowledge the petition, yes, and then we'll set it for hearing at a later date.
So we're not committing ourselves to anything, they're working
Nope.
through the project right now?
Nope.
We just want to know
Nope.
we got the note?
No, that way everybody knows that it's out there, and the period for public comment, even though there's no notice, I'm sure that it'll be reported in the newspaper that this has been on the agenda, so that's out there, and then there'll be a notice for the hearing. It'll be at a later date.
And that, I think, is probably the thing we want to make clear. At least I do, that there will be hearing on this. So
Yes, absolutely. Has to be.
I make a motion to acknowledge the petition for vacating the street portion of Northeast State Street.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comment? Chad?
I can provide a few comments
Okay.
now if you want to elaborate on what Mr. Erickson had mentioned. Indeed, we've met with Mr. Erickson and Utilities Commissioner and Mayor Denner and Utility Director Lawrence, and then also had some correspondence with Mr. Jinks in talking about the utilities in the street that are there now, how those will be addressed in the future, should this be vacated and so on. So we've been talking for quite some time, quite some time about that topic, and which led up to some, I think this letter and such. So we'll continue to work on that, no doubt.
Any further comment, discussion? Not? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We'll see.
Yep. Under 2, Deb Reinke, Board Member, Domestic Violence Network, requesting building permit fee waiver.
And Mr. Amert's with me also.
Okay.
He's our contractor.
Anybody gives her any trouble, step in.
Good evening to all of you. Mr. Jenks, how are you? No, don't shake your head.
She doesn't need you.
You know me too well, right?
Who wants to put a time limit on it?
I'm here as a board member of the Domestic Violence Network, and we've gone through all the steps now, and our houses hopefully will be delivered December 1st. And of course, we're nonprofit. I know the question will come up, everybody has to pay for a building permit fee, but a lot of times you can take that on a case-by-case basis. And so I, as a board member, with our contractor and 2 other board members, are requesting that you consider waiving our building permit fee. It'd be about $850. And right now we had a big fundraiser and we're in the process. We still need to raise $19,000, so every little penny we can save. So I'm just here requesting and asking you to consider that, if you would, as part of the board.
We don't get that many nonprofits that come for us requesting things, if there's a building going on and nonprofits coming before us. But I thought about this one, about setting precedent. But I think that given the work that's going to be done here, and the fact that it's upgrade for the Domestic Violence Network, and then it's a nonprofit.
Well, and you would get your sewer and water fees back and your electrical fees back, because we will have to.
Well, that just covers the burden you put on the systems.
Yeah, but there will be a certain burden that the city does not have to shoulder in terms of in terms of overlooking the construction of the house. I mean, the house is built to code, and it comes in and gets there, and there it is. So there's a certain amount of things that you won't have to do also that a typical house would need.
Good point, thank you.
Chad, I see we have a copy of the building permit here.
Yeah, I think included in the agenda packet is the permit application. Correct.
And it says permit fee $12.93.
Yeah, I did
$50.
I did see that. And
That's the difference between whether I wasn't sure whether the building permit fee needed to include the cost of the houses in it, or if it was just for the work that our company is going to do. That's the difference between the two.
So the work
if-
you're going to do is
For the work we were going to do, the fee would be $850.
Okay.
If the fee would be assessed on the entire value of the whole package, it would be the higher number.
okay.
So does 850 sound right then?
yeah, you must have. We have a table. It's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward, and that must
The
have been the
girls-
number that we came up with today.
The girls,
Yeah.
the larger number was the one for the
For the whole,
three-
the 290,
total,
Yeah.
and it's a lesser number for
Yeah.
the 850. Yes. We still have to. I think Mr. Amert makes a good point. With these coming ready-built, it's probably as good of item to discuss related to this as any.
I'm just worried you're bringing ammo for a future applicant if you spend too much time.
If we
on
draw, it'd be great to draw a distinction in the motion perhaps, so that indeed there isn't maybe some unintended precedent set, so that we have to deal with this often.
Do you have suggested language for that?
That the reasoning hinges on a nonprofit rather than on
Yeah,
a
I just,
rebuild.
that's all I
Was this your idea, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Was this your idea, Commissioner?
Yeah, it was, sir. Commissioner.
That's a great idea, thank you.
I just didn't know if we want to have like
I'm a private person tonight. I'm not
Oh,
a
you can't
commissioner.
take that commission hat off.
some
Yes, I
nominal
can.
fee,
Not if you know
like some nominal fee just for paperwork handling, because you're still going to have to do a foundation permit, all that type of stuff. So it's not like you're going to get rid of everything. I used to be a building official, so I had some of this stuff. I think we typically tried to keep it to, let's say, just some nominal number, whether it's $100 or whatever for that type of stuff for a move-in, and go that route. And then you're still getting a fee, which keeps that door open, and then you can strip it down to just the bare minimum. So
But
that'd
we
be something to
did have to
consideration.
pay our fees for our conditional use and the variance and all that stuff. I didn't,
Some of that
we didn't
administrative stuff.
ask for that to be waived. It's just that the building permit fee, $850 is quite a bit,
Mhm.
So we just came for you to consider. We're hoping that.
So you're open to paying $100?
I'd like to pay nothing, but if you're gonna have to do a base fee or
nominal fee.
something, yeah. The less the better, Commissioner.
Understood.
Have we ever had this come before us, Chad, before?
The last,
We've granted one and not granted one, that I can remember.
you are correct. I can't remember the one we did not grant.
I believe it was the hospital.
I thought it was
Hospital may
the
have
bus
been-
barn for the
Hospital.
school.
I think it was the bus barn.
Yeah, because that's taxpayer money either way.
And then perhaps the hospital, I think that was may have been a part of a larger negotiation, part of the annexation.
Yeah.
And I believe perhaps the one that was not accepted was ICAP. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, boy, that could be.
I want to say that rings a bell. I didn't research that. I apologize.
I didn't either. I just remember we've had a couple before as well.
It's not that I don't like the idea of a modified amount, it's just that then we start arbitrating, what we're talking about here, whether it's a nonprofit should struggle for dollars at times, and we certainly know this one does. So not that I don't like the idea of having some modified version of it, it's just that then it's just the next one that comes in, we're going to start having to arbitrate that, as well as the nonprofit status. I like the idea of taking these requests case by case. As you say, we said yes to one and no to another, so it's not, we're not easy pushovers. So I would just assume that we either waive the fee completely, but if there's some other feelings about that, I'd be glad to listen to it. It's a creative idea.
If I may, Mayor, Commissioner Johnson, you asked for some language perhaps in consideration of it being a nonprofit and a pre-built structure.
Okay.
Motion is to something to that effect. Then we're acknowledging the pre-built, which indeed, as Mr. Amert had mentioned, there's not a framing inspection, a drywall inspection. There will be a final inspection, and there still will be foundation and footing inspections and such. But at least we're tying it to multiple components, which if another nonprofit perhaps comes in, case by case, they maybe will not have the same circumstances of a pre-built structure coming in that these folks have.
Ken lost me in the language, Ken, by that,
Um,
but in
I don't
consideration.
know what we put in the motions always, in consideration that it's a nonprofit and a pre-built structures being proposed.
Okay, in consideration that it's a nonprofit and pre-built structure.
Yes.
Being proposed, I move that we, waive the, respective, their building request for the domestic violence network.
Second.
New building.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? If not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Under number 2, we also have Mr. Amert here to talk about the sewer.
Sewer and a couple of other items which this is the appropriate body to have address them. The sewer and water, I was late by a couple of days in applying for an excavation permit to get the sewer and water out in the street. The situation, I believe you all know where we're going, to the east of Krug there. There is no gravity sewer in that street. So what's going to happen is we're going to put an ejector pump, an ejector pit in the front yard, and then bore the sewer line frost-free deep enough and come back up over by the manhole on Union Avenue so that we don't have the freeze-up problems that some of the neighbors on the north side of the street had last winter with those lines, just due to the shallowness of the manhole in Union. And so when we put the sewer in, we'll have an excavation in the yard, and then we'll have an excavation on Union Avenue at the 2nd Street intersection, in relatively small size. For that, we're not going to be digging up the entire street from one end to the other. For the water, we just have to go out. We're going to be doing one water service. According to the state plumbing guy, we can do one water service to take care of both of those buildings because they're connected. And that's right out in the middle of the street, 2nd Street. So we'd have to be doing that excavation and fill back in also. So I guess that's what I would like to have permission to do, given that I didn't have my application in by last Thursday. That's one item. My second item is the sidewalk, the property that they're locating on. We're talking about building on about half of it right now, but the lot is just listed as one lot, the entire thing, and we would like to be excused from putting the sidewalk in on the entire lot. We would like to put the city sidewalk in on the portion of the lot that we're developing now, so that when we go to develop, when we go to develop the remainder of the lot, that we don't have to cross that sidewalk and break it up while that is being developed. So we're asking for some relief on the sidewalk and for approval on the ability to open up the streets at this time of year.
Was the sidewalk talked about at the zoning?
Yes, Chad had told us if we maybe put a clause in there or something
We talked about it.
at the conditional use.
Right,
Or
and
variance.
that wasn't the board that would decide it. It would have to be probably this group here, the
Yeah.
city
Okay.
commission.
Okay.
Yeah, because they had talked that we'd end at the east end of the house, and then if, we hope we don't have to go with another house for domestic violence, but if we would, for clients, then once we did that, then we would finish to the end of our lot. Because there is no sidewalk otherwise down there at all. in front of Krug's or?
We've done it a number of times and just delayed putting in the sidewalk because why put it in and drive over it?
Well, yeah.
Right.
And it won't be
and redo
small
it. But
equipment.
Run that through the sidewalk committee and it'll come back to us. I don't think you'll
Well,
have a
we-
problem with that.
The
did-
sidewalk committee can act on that, or can recommend on that?
Yeah, they recommend it and then it comes back to us.
Okay.
Okay.
So you think you'll be able to
Good.
patch the street up? Sorry, I switched gears. You want to
No,
finish with
go
that?
ahead.
Adequately, so this fall, or would you do like a temporary patch and then next spring?
Well, I am not the weatherman.
Who is this year?
This,
I want to talk to him.
this week does not look great, but the following week doesn't look too bad. And that, you know, if we had to, we could pour concrete in there over the winter and take it out and put it back with asphalt in the spring or in the summer, if that was a make or break issue.
Because your deadline, for digging in the street is November 1 and
For the application.
for the application, so we kind of got our,
Does that get to be a challenge for other projects?
I'm sorry?
Speaking outside of this, Don, but I mean, this moratorium we put like November 1 to, when do we open it back up, Bob?
April 1st.
April 1.
Does that mess things up a lot for you? Is that a pretty common challenge for contractors? Not that I expect you to speak for everybody, but would you?
Well, there are times when it does rear its head, and I guess this is one of them.
well, you know, even a couple years ago, it was still nice in November.
Right.
You know, it just, like Mike said, I'd love to know the weatherman.
Well, it just seems like there's a lot more going on in our community now. Maybe we need to relook at the moratorium because sometimes you can work till
December.
maybe this year we'll have an open winter and you can do it all winter long.
It's
Be
possible.
optimistic.
It's one of those, I look at it as one of those years when, in the earlier part of the later fall, that if we get colder weather then, that we're going to have a warmer than normal winter because the average does work out. But that's certainly not a promise.
No.
If we did issue this building permit, could you go in on Josephine in that manhole that's probably 125 feet north of the intersection, temporary, instead of digging up Union Avenue, since that's a main route to the hospital and stuff?
Well, I guess I was only aware of the one manhole on Union.
Well,
If
there's
it's,
a
you know,
there's a sewer manhole out in front of where Herb Lurs used to live,
okay.
that second house to the north.
Well, that might even be closer than the one on Union, because from our from in front of the east or in front of the west house to the Union Avenue manhole is 325 feet. So it's a block that way. It might very well, if we turned it around and we ran it from the west house to the east house out into the yard and then to the Josephine manhole, that may well be less footage for us, in fact. And it would certainly be something that we would like to explore.
And it's not very deep out there.
It'd be less costly.
Well, but you don't have any, you haven't had any problems with the line from that manhole freezing up, the line that leads away from that manhole, the city's line freezing up?
Well, I haven't been on water and sewer department since mid-'80s, so, but back then we didn't have any trouble.
Yeah, that one's 3 feet 10 inches deep.
That one on Josephine is? Did you get any problems with it this year?
I don't believe anybody's that far back. I think they're farther to the north, you know, so that they're
Oh,
at a
that
deeper
nobody
section.
flows right into that?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't have the service lines on
Yeah.
our GIS map.
The one on Union Avenue is quite a ways to the west of the center of the street. It's getting over close to the curb and gutter on the west side. So a person could try to minimize we certainly wouldn't shut down the whole street.
And that one's 4 feet 9 inches,
About a foot.
So your
about a
recommendation,
foot and a half.
would it be better to go to Josephine?
Either one of them, wherever you bring your line up, you'll have to frost-proof, put some
Yeah.
high-density polystyrene over top of everything, as big
Yeah,
as you can
and
go.
once we get up that elevation, anything below 6 feet, certainly.
The state plumbing code requirements 4.5 feet roughly for, or 42 inches, excuse me, for where it exits the building, and then I want to say it's 4 feet out in the street is the minimum they'd like to see.
And that's pushing it.
That's for gravity,
Yeah. Yeah,
not a full pipe on a force main.
right, on a force main.
Is there any concerns about, there's not really any good options for tying into anything other than the manhole? I know I've had discussions with Mr. Teeman and such that, are you aware of that, Brad?
I think force mains are different than service lines. So there is some precedence that you can bring a force main into a manhole. There's a discussion on probably what would be better. If we go into the main, I think you could cover the main and connection. We're getting into the weeds here, but with something for frost proofing would be better. So I think from a pragmatic standpoint, the one on Union is a better one for the depth and some of those things and frost proofing. The other one may be closer, and so you'd have to make a determination on what's in your best interest. So
The one on Union is the one that we had focused on.
I don't want to see Union tore up any more than anything else, but that's,
Yeah.
Just so the commission knows too, just very briefly, there's been a fair amount of discussion recently about the moratorium, I guess, as Commissioner Corbin had put it. It talks about it being the term seasonal limitations for excavation. As you know, it's very difficult to get asphalt. It's very difficult, even if a contractor digs in the street after November, there's not a guarantee that an asphalt plant's going to be open, so there can be a real possibility that you're going to be dealing with a gravel street in those holes all winter and all the issues that deal with that. And Commissioner Thill is, with his background, of course, as you could imagine, was very astute to those concerns. But there's the other side of the coin too, where construction season and such like that is limiting and here in South Dakota, and it creates challenges. But that's part of why the discussion's happening here before the City Commission today, I think. Yeah.
Don did say if you can't get asphalt, you concrete it and then take that out. So it wouldn't be gravel.
If that was what was required, just so it's clear what is the expectation.
Okay.
And Gary, any concerns about this? Street
I
side?
like the
Any
idea
more
of
than situation by situation?
You like the idea of
I like the idea of concrete if we can have blacktop with that.
Right.
If we do the whole street, that'd be great. Yeah, you do the whole street.
Sure.
Always a
Then
practical
you don't
one.
have to bring the pavement back.
Isn't that out in front of your shop, Don?
Wave the sidewalk.
Isn't that out in front of your shop?
No, it's a little more.
Okay.
How long would you have to leave that concrete set? 10 to 14 days?
Oh, probably 10 days anyway. I mean, we get that. You should be able to do it in 7 days. 7 days with high early.
mhm.
Particularly if it's going to be taken out.
Be removed, yeah.
Right.
Most of the problems with it is the surface characteristics, and the surface characteristics, it'll spall, but it's not going to be to the detriment of the pavement over a 6-month period.
Would just so everybody knows what if Mr. Gagno's crews will be taking out concrete and how to, in the ordinance it talks about resurfacing fees and costs for that and so on. How are those to be allocated and so on? The typical excavation permit is, Gary can correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's surfacing that needs to be replaced, that's invoiced afterwards based upon the square yards and so on of what needs to be done. So if it's going to be Gary's expectation that Gary and the street crews are going to be taking that concrete out, or what we had in mind. All things that are, need to be considered.
I would say that we're probably better equipped to take it out than your guys. That we would take it out when it's the appropriate time, when the springtime comes with thaws, that we would take it out.
And then our guys would put blacktop in.
Yeah.
One more thing, if I may, regarding sidewalk. I know Commissioner Wallner, you had suggested perhaps to go to the sidewalk committee. They don't meet very often, and it's kind of challenging to get them to meet. What we've done in the past with some of the delays and deferrals, typically though it's related to the assessment resolution, but typically we've kind of jumped right to you all. So if you're comfortable with that, I think the committee would be okay. So I didn't mean
Maybe
to
just bring it back here before the sidewalk committee.
Well, I was even saying just let you all just decide. I mean, with just doing half the street, because that's really just related to an ordinance where it says sidewalk will be put in with a new building permit on vacant ground if curb and gutter exists. It's all purely ordinance, and if you all are able to.
Curb and gutter doesn't exist, so
It
we don't
does.
have to put sidewalk.
No, there's no curb on that, just a
no
gutter.
curb.
Yeah.
No.
So
I'm just being a smarty.
I was just going to do, go ahead, Michael.
Well, I just want to double check here, David, are we okay discussing and doing the sidewalk underneath the building permit fee waiver, or is that something that would have to come back next week as an agenda item? Because I just want to make sure that we don't make a motion or.
But it's
something
all
that's-
affiliated with
that's-
domestic
yeah,
violence. All
Well,
ties
it's
together.
domestic violence, but it's not building permit fee.
Do you want this before the commission?
I
At
would
this
prefer-
time, what I heard was you don't.
Well, I'm okay if the commission is going to decide on all these items, whether it has to be today or tomorrow or next week or whenever. I prefer not to have to take a step through the sidewalk committee for that
Understood.
portion. So,
And I'm okay with that too.
The building permit's before the commission, I think that you can address it.
Perfect, thank you.
it is related.
Yeah.
To David's point, it does talk about when there's a building permit, that's when the sidewalk is, so I can see the
Kicks in.
correlation or the tie
Yeah.
to that, absolutely.
Way to leverage your time in front of the commission. You're covering a lot of ground.
When do you anticipate the road being back concreted?
Don't say
Oh,
tomorrow.
not tomorrow. I would
Understanding the
say
weather.
from the biggest problem will be lining up the directional boring guy. And that, I would say that it won't be this week, and it may not be next week. It may be the week after that. And it'll probably take, out in the street on Union, I would say it would take 3 days maximum. And then we'd have to have a 7-day cure time.
How big a hole are you gonna put out there?
Well, it's not
Is it gonna be a
not a
trick?
very deep hole. It's not a very deep sewer, so it's not going to be a very big hole.
Who makes the final call on this Union or Josephine or whatever other street?
I suppose he does.
Or-
Gary?
Probably
Chad?
with the
Chad.
utility
Chad.
connection, we coordinate on everything, of course, but
Yeah.
I would say between Brad and myself, we coordinate together, and then Jan Teeman, the collection and distribution
It
foreman.
sounds to me like you all need to coordinate a little bit more yet before we make a final decision on which street. I'm not comfortable going to either one right now. I don't know which way's the best way.
Well,
I just
Actually,
don't
though,
know.
Mike, and maybe I'm wrong.
I just want to do what's right.
No, and I understand that, but we're just here also asking that we can dig in your streets after the 1st of November.
Got it.
I can't imagine that these guys aren't going to coordinate and go, so I mean, we will use the best one that we have to.
I
It's
just
just
want to
that,
make sure that
yeah,
it's
we
out
need
there
to
that-
know we can dig in
Okay.
your street after November 1.
So y'all figure that out. We just need to decide
Yes.
if we want to dig or not.
Right. And our houses, hopefully December 1st they're talking? Is that what last
We have a
email?
little flexibility, we have
Okay.
some flexibility. so.
But they're coming this winter.
Yes,
They're
they
coming
are.
this winter.
That's why.
You gotta have pipes to it, you're
We
gonna have to
do.
plumb it,
Yeah.
so, I'll make a motion that we do allow them to dig beyond the normal time frame. Obviously, work with Chad on which street, whatever you guys need to do for that. And you can talk and work with Gary whether you need to cement it or not. Sounds like that's probably the right way to do it. Just especially, I would almost say if you do it on Union, absolutely, you're gonna have to cement it. Otherwise, we might be able to get away with it.
Yeah.
Long enough motion for you, Jen?
I think I got
Doing
it.
my best.
Thank you.
Second?
That was easy.
Yeah.
Mayor Denner, if I may say, you know, as long as there's flexibility, if the asphalt plant is still going,
Yeah.
and we can put temporary asphalt in there, that may be
Easier to take out.
easier to take out, if it even needs to be taken out. I suspect we'll be dealing with frozen ground and such like that, and we might have some issues, but then you don't have the cure time. You know, you don't have
Yep.
to stay off of
There
it for-
again, coordinate
Yeah.
all that.
As long as Gary's satisfied, I'm satisfied.
Yep, work that through Gary and the engineer.
Yeah, I got
Good chance, Gary, I can't lie on the concrete.
I got a motion and a second. Any other comment, discussion? Not all in favor, signify by aye. Oh,
Are we just doing this under number 2?
yes.
Okay.
We haven't made it very far.
Yeah.
Well, you said you were gonna keep me here forever.
No, I wanted to define that we were doing this under.
Jeremiah's
Yep.
fault.
So,
Okay.
thank you.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
We appreciate
Thank you.
it, and thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks for your
And
work.
Jen, thank you. They're not all gentlemen sitting here, we gotta remember the women.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Yep, and the other
Thanks,
board
Commissioner.
members and people, thank you.
Yes, thank you. We'll move down in item 3, Eric Folsheim, Executive Director, LAIC, and Eric Hortness, Executive Director of Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce Downtown Master Plan. Is it all him? Okay.
I told Eric he could sit back and wait for questions.
Okay.
Eric Fosheim, Executive Director for the Lake Area Improvement Corp. Here in town. I come to you tonight to have a discussion about a master plan of sorts that we've been working on here over the good chunk of the summer. That would include a good chunk of the center part of the city of Madison, kind of the heart of Madison. You know, we've been seeing a lot of development in recent years in kind of the edges of Madison. But as an organization, the Greater Madison Chamber and others, including DSU, we've been trying to figure out ways to maybe put a focus and keep a focus on downtown Madison and figure out ways that we can take what we have, which is really pretty good, and make it better. And figure out ways that maybe we can utilize some green space in area neighborhoods, maybe improve parts of downtown at various ways. And basically this plan kind of draws a roadmap for us going forward into the future to look at ways that we can maybe put if areas of town ever have to be improved or maintained, it gives us an idea as to how we can maybe put things back together in a more aesthetically pleasing, safe manner that might help attract people to downtown a little bit more, keep people downtown, and provide an atmosphere that really just kind of keeps people in the heart of Madison. And obviously, we don't want to take away from the development that's happening everywhere else in Madison. Obviously, as a development corp, you know, when we see that kind of progress, we are ecstatic to see that. But obviously, we want to kind of keep the whole town in general in mind as we look at ways to go into the future. And so, ISG is an architectural engineering company. They're headquartered out of Mankato, Minnesota, and they have an office currently in Sioux Falls. They've been in Sioux Falls about a year and a half now, and one of their areas of focus is take these different communities that they work with and put together these plans. This plan in particular would include an area of Egan Avenue, basically from 2nd Street southwest, or basically where the depot is, and go north. This plan shows to 8th Street, basically the north edge of Dakota State, but actually we went back to ISG and asked them if they would include all the way to 9th, and they agreed to do that for the same price. So you'll see on the back page, as part of this master plan, there's two separate prices that are listed. The $30,000 includes basically downtown, so 2nd Street south to 2nd Street north. The extra $5,000 comes in to encompass basically from 2nd Street north all the way to 9th Street. And I guess the idea with adding that additional $5,000 is it would create a sort of gateway between downtown and Dakota State University. It would show ways that we could maybe look into the future to make it an aesthetically pleasing drive between downtown and a safe walk between downtown and Dakota State University. And so we felt that the value was there to really kind of hone in on the $35,000 version, simply because we get an additional 7 blocks for $5,000 in all of this. So as way of the compensation goes, the LAIC has committed $10,000 to this project. The Greater Madison Chamber has committed $10,000 to this project, and Dakota State has committed $5,000 to this project to include that area between 2nd Street and 9th Street. And so I guess I come before the commission tonight to ask for your partnership in this project for that remaining $10,000 that we would need to get this master plan put in place. Am I missing anything? I knew I'd need him.
Just a couple of points. If and when this plan gets put together, it certainly isn't set in stone by any means that, hey, this is what needs to happen. It's more of a pick and choose. Once this is the master plan, you can pick and choose items that can be done quicker and maybe a little bit less money-wise after we get the master plan back. It's not all-encompassing by any means that once we get it back, everything needs to be done. I think that was my only point that I wanted to make. I mean, there's a lot of elements that go into this plan. ISG will come in and do community forums and surveys and find out what the community really wants to see in the proposed area.
One thing I will add is I feel like the timing of all of this is very appropriate in that the city is working on their next comprehensive plan. And so as the city looks at the needs for the community in the next 10 or so years, I feel like this could maybe partner with some of that if there's a need for any sort of improvements in the heart of Madison. And so from that aspect, I also feel like the timing of this investment is worthwhile. And again, like Eric said, these aren't things that need to be done right away. This is just a roadmap of, if things ever do need to maybe be repaired or maintained, that there's a way there's a map in place for us to know how we could maybe put some of those things back together. And then another thing I forgot to add is we've been working on a number of workforce items in the last 5-6 months. And what we've been told by the area manufacturers is they would actually like to see a plan from the community as far as helping with workforce recruitment. Ways that maybe we can help attract folks to Madison and not necessarily come specifically for a job, but come because they want to live in Madison, and then the job would actually even be secondary to that. And so, not that this roadmap automatically waves a magic wand and all of a sudden you have a downtown that is just, absolutely remarkable, but again, it just kind of provides a roadmap for ways that we could maybe get ideas and implement those over the course of time. If it's, a different street curb that needs to go in, or there's a picnic table that could go somewhere, or a sidewalk that could be in place to go over to the library park, or whatever it might be, those are things that would all be included in this. And if you look at the picture on the second page, it doesn't necessarily just include Egan Avenue. I mean, that's the main focus. It actually includes kind of the blocks going out, especially downtown. So for example, the library and other areas that might include green space in or around downtown as well. So.
And my last point would be it's not going to give suggestions or ideas of what type of businesses for downtown. It's more of ideas, ways to attract people downtown.
Well, a couple of things. One is that you need to have a plan like this before we can go after grants and those type of things, where if we decide to make improvements and we can show a plan, I know that always works better with grants. And it also shows that, multiple entities working together, which is very critical in my mind. And I think, like you said, if the parks are doing something in, say, Memorial Park that's right on Egan, let's put it right into this plan and put it all together. While we're making that, we're maybe not doing the whole plan, but if we're making and spending monies and funds to do that, let's do it in accordance with that plan then as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of things like that we can do, and it's on the parade route, so come on.
One other thing you might want to consider is it's my understanding there is a downtown improvement fund of sorts with some money allocated for a project that something like this, or maybe this project would be appropriate to use those funds for. It's my understanding those funds have been there for a period of time, and so this might be something that would be an appropriate way to spend some of those funds as well without having to dip into any other sort of budget items. So
That was part of my conversation with the Erics. We had agreed that if the group agrees to the $10,000, we could also contribute that in 2020. So we could put that still into our 2020 budget, and then you could all decide whether you would like to apply this downtown improvement reserve. Right now there is a $50,000 balance, so we would still have a large portion of that left.
Yeah, it's been $50K for a long time, and
It has.
And we are interested in moving our reserves and using them.
Yeah.
So we get opportunity.
Well, you guys have done a good job on this. Thank you. Thanks for bringing in the different stakeholders into the process as well. It's not very often that we have somebody come to us and they've already brought several different groups together to help fund something, and we're at the last piece. So that's a nice change of pace. I appreciate that.
you'll notice that the date of this proposal is May 10th. So we've been working on different avenues for some time.
And I think
So.
you've met already too, right? I didn't make it to it, but
Yeah.
the group has already met,
Yep.
or at least.
Yeah, the
discussed
ISG gave a
numerous-
presentation to a public group on, it was in July, I believe, and they kind of laid the roadmap for a lot of this stuff. And there was a lot of different ideas that came about from that, and what we learned is that ISG, as part of this process, does a lot of what we were asked to do as a part of that meeting, and that is get some input from stakeholders in the community and so on. They actually conduct that as part of all of this. So
It's all part of keeping our downtown alive and active, and it has been. I think, doing well. Always room for improvements, of course, and I think this would help that. So I'll make a motion that we contribute up to $10,000, and I would say that we do take it out of that downtown reserve, and or if we shuffle it with budget, we can deal with that later, for the downtown master plan.
Second.
Before you vote,
Yes.
how much money does the LIC and the chamber get from the city for their budgets?
Jen, you have that?
Yep. LAIC is funded in two pieces. We give to the Forward Madison. $140 is the LAIC's annual contribution, and then we also give to the Forward Madison.
It's a total of 260.
Yep, 120 Forward Madison, and then 140 contribution for the, yep, and then for the Chamber of Commerce, it is right now at 85,000.
So what I'm getting at, and I'm not necessarily against the project, but I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter if the chamber kicks in money or if they do, the taxpayers are paying this. The taxpayers have furnished their budget, which they're gonna take out of, and you guys are taking, so it all comes from the same place. I
Well,
mean, I'm
the
not
chamber's
against
a
the
membership
project.
organization. A
Pardon?
portion, the chamber's a membership organization. A portion of their budget's city money, but it's not exclusive. And
Well,
then
the
the
taxpayers the biggest share.
No, that's not correct. The portion that we get from the city is, part of our operating budget comes out of what we receive from the city. By far, our membership dues is our largest revenue generation.
And I might just add, something to consider is that, those go towards our everyday operating budgets. This is something that we don't do every year. It's something that, we've elected to do as part of our initiative in our mission as an organization. And so, yes, I do understand the comment that you guys do fund a portion of our budget. But, that is for our everyday operation as an organization, so.
were you getting at something bigger, George, or just poking the? Were you getting at something bigger?
I think it's something bigger.
Yeah, something more.
Or are you just poking the LAIC and the chamber?
You know, the public knows it's all the same money, whether
Right.
it comes from them or from you.
I was sitting here thinking that same thing.
a
I'm okay
blend.
with that. We fund your operation too, as Derek said, to get your office moving. We asked you to get some things done. You're coming to us with moving something forward. I'm okay with that. I think it's a good thing. We've talked about, I was really a little panicky at first when I saw you went Second Street to Second Street, because when we talked on the phone, you said, we're going to do a snapshot of everything from 9th Street, which I'm glad, because we've talked a lot about, and we have to do it on the condition of the street on Egan. We need to be doing something, and that this is a great time for us to all be talking about this. And this gets us off center talking about it. We're doing more than just talking about it. So.
And as far as the budget piece of it, we're already into November. I don't see any of this really taking off extremely fast before the end of the year, so.
Good to know.
I had a motion, gentlemen, did I have a second?
Yes.
Who seconded?
Kelly.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down.
Well, you might, it kind of engrossed in the discussion or second half, I didn't. I won't.
Thank you.
Okay.
You'll have it on tape, but I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote down, so.
Any further comments or discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move down into consent calendar.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
Motion to approve the
Thank
consent
you,
calendar.
guys.
Second?
I got a
Yeah.
motion. I got a We got a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any further comment, discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Seeing nothing under unfinished business, we'll move into new business. Authorize the mayor to sign engagement proposal CMG Consultant LLC Advanced Metering Infrastructure Analysis. This one's yours, Brad.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Yep.
Should have in your packet, it's a fairly lengthy proposal here, roughly about 10, 12 pages here. Basically what's happening is multiple things have kind of come to a head with our meter reading system. The first one is that we were using specific technology that was provided by one company that would be inserted into our meters so that we could read the meters, and that was the Itron ERT. And Itron had a certain number of digits on their serial numbers, and they've sold all of those serial numbers out. And so there's no longer serial numbers available for the ERT as it stands. They went to a new version of the ERT, which has more decimal places in the serial number, but they're not allowing that to be used by third-party installers. So we no longer have a path forward for reading our meters with electronics from the metering side. From the meter reading side, we have handhelds that are going to be no longer supported. I believe it's December 31st of 2021, so we're coming up within 2 years of that no longer being usable either. So those two things are kind of coming together to form a situation where we need to have a forward-looking plan for our meters and our meter reading, both. And since these are basically million-dollar decisions, when you start down this path, if you go down the wrong path and you have to come back, it could be $1 million to get back out of that hole that you dug. I'd rather have somebody that does this for a living look at it, say this is what's in your best interest. We can say yay or nay, but I'd rather have somebody that does this for a living look at it and say, hey, this is what we recommend, looking at all the different options that we're familiar with, and this is what would be in the best interest of the city of Madison. They did have references, multiple different references. They've worked with communities as small as 2,000 meters or less, and then they've worked all the way up to some of the big massive ones. One of them is Austin, City of Austin, Austin Energy and such. They're one of the biggest municipal utilities in the United States.
As in Texas?
As in Texas.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that the closest, Brad?
No, we had, there's the City of Gillette, Wyoming, and then Thief River Falls in Minnesota. I contacted both of them. We played phone tag back and forth. In the messages that I got from both communities, they both said that they went through them, they had decided on a product, and they were working on the implementation of the plan. And that's as much as I got out of them. I wasn't able to get a one-on-one back and forth with them because we were playing phone tag. And one gentleman went on vacation apparently today, so that's as much as I can tell you about that. But
Were they saying that they made their decision based on the recommendations from CMG?
that's the one from Thief River Falls. He said that we started down this path. We're putting in the stuff that came from their recommendation. He said things are going really good on the electric side. They were having something, I'm not sure what. It was something with the meters themselves and the water. It wasn't necessarily the system, but there was something they were working through. I don't know what it was. Didn't get that clarification. It was just something on an email or on a voicemail that he left.
And the amount is 14.
It's 14,000. I want to say 14,500 if I remember right.
And if you so choose, gentlemen, we need a funding source, please. Brad, I would assume that you would want to do the standard MMU.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if you would, please, gentlemen, make your motion, include the verbiage funds to come from the respective water, electric, and sewer cash balances, please.
So we're looking at, maybe looking at changing our meters, what, 20?
The way that some of the systems work, we looked at one here last week, and we have, the plan is to be able to continue to read our legacy meters, the ones that are that we just got done putting in. We want to read them as long as they're usable. But we also have to transition and be able to read the new ones that we're going to put in. So whatever system we get, we want to have the ability to read the legacy meters for as long as they're usable, plus be able to bring in new meters and go hopefully into the future with something that's a little bit better for what we call AMI, which is where we have two-way communications with our meters, and we can do more remote disconnects, reconnects, and that type of stuff, remote read-ins and readouts. Right now, we have to roll a truck every time we want to do one of those things. So you take a guy off of what he's doing, he hops in his pickup, he goes up to the to one of the offices, picks up a piece of paper, goes out, reads the meters, brings it back, sends it back, and we spend a tremendous amount of time doing that. You know, the idea with Tyler was that some of that stuff would have been done on an iPad, would have been sent back electronically, which would have sped things up. This goes the next level to where somebody in the office environment can go out, read the meter remotely, and get that information back within 15 to 20 seconds and be able to not have to roll a truck. And on certain circumstances, we can get special meters that have disconnect in them, so we can do remote disconnect and reconnect without having to roll trucks for disconnects. We average right now probably about 35 disconnects a month. And so we have to roll 70 times a month with the truck and a guy to go out there to disconnect the meter and then reconnect it after they've paid. So that adds up after a while.
Brad, bottom of page 9, please.
Yes.
Would you just take the peek, not to?
Yes.
14,500.
Yes.
It says it does not cover travel, lodging, and incidentals. Do we have any idea travel, lodging?
I don't know that they're going to come here. I can find out. I don't know the exact.
How much you just want this group to approve?
I'd say probably 1,500, something like that, about 10% of the total.
16,000.
16,000. Thank you.
Up to 16?
Yeah.
So in our meetings that we had that you were talking about, electrical meters were good. I mean, we have electrical meter, but the water is the issue.
That's going to be the first thing we're going to run into probably. There's a limited number of those available in the system right now. When we found out that we were going to have problems with the ERTs, we bought as many electric meters that we could forecast and see that were available, basically everything in the 3-state area, and got those here so that we're good for a period of time on the electric, but the water, if we go much farther, we're going to probably run into an issue where we're out of meters and we don't have any way to meter the water without going to a new reading system. Or going back to manually going to every house and reading the meter with a touchpad or something.
Do you anticipate what date that would be?
I don't. It just depends on how fast we go through the stock we have, and I don't know the exact number of meters on the water side. I know we have some in stock. I don't know the exact number.
So we need to do this sooner than later is what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say within, we could run out of some water meters within 6 months, depending on how fast things go up on cyber estates. If those take off, I've been told they've had many inquiries about the properties, so. And also down there at Kearns Addition, they're looking at another, 14 unit? Is that what that is? How many units are on there? I want to say 14.
Correct.
So that would take up 14, depending on how we do the water. There's some question about how we're doing the metering there. So we'll have to get that ironed out. But that will take some meters, both electric and water. So it doesn't take long to go through them.
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an engagement proposal, CMG Consulting LLC dash Advanced Metering Infrastructure Analysis. Using funds in up to $16,000 from the 3 enterprise fund.
Water, electric, sewer?
Water, electric, and sewer, yes. Thank you.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments or discussion? Not all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, authorized purchase of a 2019 International 7400 chassis and Hale PT 1000 rear load garbage packer.
We're starting out looking at
garbage trucks at the beginning of the year. We budgeted for this last year. I've looked at every truck out there, I think.
I can't guarantee that. If there's a garbage truck, you can't look at it, it's only because they're hiding.
We were trying to look at the single arm, and there's just too many things that I don't trust about it. You'd have to put everybody out on the curb. I don't think we're ready for that yet. So this truck is more like the truck we had before, this truck that we don't like now. It's the 20-yard version. This truck we have now is 25, and it's just busting up our streets.
How old a truck is that?
2012.
So it's 7 years of.
About 100 and some thousand miles on it.
How many
It's
trips to
starting
landfills does it get a week?
Right now we go 2. This one will probably be. Yeah, you're not going to get 2 out of this one every week. You're probably every second or
2
third.
weeks.
Yeah, we're going to have to go 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times it.
10 trips a month.
But this one they have on hand down at Northern Truck. That's what brought me to this one. If we ordered the swing arm, it would be about I think the last quote was $290 for that truck. This one's $175. Like I said, it's a little lighter version of what we have now, but it's a little smaller too, so you'd have to make that extra trip once in a while.
And no trade-in for the old one, huh?
We didn't talk trade-in yet, but this was just the price that they give me. But we had a $60,000 trade-in value with the other truck, the $290. But
And as of today's conversation, we are looking to probably surplus that in 2020.
yes,
Right.
so we would just, and that's what they recommend anyway. They said they'd give you a bid of so many dollars, but if you surplus it out, that's what they'll give you. So
This is in the budget, budgeted in the 2019 budget. We did budget $250,000 for a new garbage truck to be covered by the solid waste depreciation reserve with funds of $199,550. So same would be true here. The truck would just be less, but we would still cover
yes,
the bottom line of the truck with that depreciation reserve.
So we're basically acting on something that we've already planned for. We're just, our costs are less based on the fact that we moved away from the arm. We're going to a smaller truck. The idea of not tearing up some streets and those kind of things, as much as we have with this monster that we're moving around.
I guess I would like, I can't make a motion to table it, but consider tabling it. I've been checking in on a couple outsourcing the garbage and the recycling. I'd like to get a handle on that to see if we can get anything to go on that.
Kelly?
No, I'd like to move ahead on this. Unless, you know.
I mean,
Go ahead, man.
when you're looking at a garbage truck, you also have to look at our recycling. And we know the recycling is really costing us a lot of money. We can outsource the garbage and the recycling, let them come in and pick it up. I know we're going to save at least, well, $175,000 on a brand new truck. And then I do believe we have a contract with Valiant Living for $60 a year.
Is it 60?
Yeah.
It's 80 something, like even 40.
Right.
Are you saying one outsource or multiple, or?
Just one. The two companies that come to mind where I've been checking into is Garbage and More out of Garrettson and Eames out of Flandreau. And I just haven't got back on from Ames yet.
Our Valiant Living contract, gentlemen, is $61,152, and that is through January of 2021.
What do you think, Bob?
Well, we could table it and find out just exactly how much it is, and see how much we could save.
Just keep tearing up the streets a little longer.
Just throwing it out there. I mean, not saying we're gonna get the same price what we charge the end user, the
You're not gonna
citizen.
get any cheaper truck than what you got right here, so. What do you guys think?
Well, if we're gonna look at shifting direction on solid waste and recycling, that's probably gonna take some time. And assuming that this garbage truck holds its value, we can hopefully recapture that value if we got out of the business. So I'm inclined to move forward with buying it. But I don't spend a lot of time in the solid waste world. That's more Kelly's. So.
And I think, I'm okay with still looking, you know, maybe there's a bit more, we, believe me, we battle this recycling thing, we kick that around so much, I think.
That's
And dents in the building.
industry issue.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not
yeah.
just a Madison issue.
I'm a little concerned if the city washes our hands of it, the community members will end up paying more in the long run.
Absolutely will.
So I don't know who we're looking to save money for, but it's something that we're gonna have to look at carefully before we move forward.
The solid waste side makes money and the recycling loses money, so you.
I understand that, but
So you can't have one without the other.
that's right.
They are doing that, but I don't recommend it.
And it might be for a different time too.
True.
Yeah.
I thought I'd just throw that out.
No, it's, I think it's a conversation we need to have. I'm just, I hadn't thought about it much, and I was just wondering the timeline, and we're gonna get ourselves into a real bind if we just keep running an old truck and waiting, I would think. It's probably time to replace the truck.
Oh, I couldn't.
Well, I think we say we start endangering our trading value too, what we might get off it in terms of.
Jen,
Well,
you said,
and another thing, you're gonna save your streets and your alleys and stuff with getting rid of this big one.
You've been a champion for that for years,
Yes,
Bob, so.
I have.
Bob doesn't like the big truck.
It's way too big for our city.
Jen, you said we have a reserve for this, right?
Yes, it was scheduled to come out of the reserve.
Okay.
And there will still be, because of the lower price of this truck, there will still be some reserve dollars left. It won't completely
Thank you.
wipe out that reserve.
Solid waste reserve.
Correct, depreciation reserve.
Depreciation reserve.
Well, I moved to authorize the purchase of the 2019 International 7400 chassis and Heil PT 1000 rear load garbage packer to be funded out of the solid waste depreciation reserve. Amount, the amount you quoted us was?
This one, 175, 357, 72.
Are there any other things we need to look at cost-wise?
There'll be some decals.
Okay.
Up to 180.
Yeah, I would say that would cover it.
Up to 180,000.
Second.
Any further comment or discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 3, authorized purchase SC70 TX dump cutter.
Hey everyone. So Our current stumper that we have has a 25 horsepower Kohler motor on it, and it was, if I recall correctly, it is a 1996 model. It's got a lot of miles on it. One thing I need to remind, I'm asking for approval. We budgeted for this for 2020 or 2019 out of our equipment reserve, and we're faced with the Emerald Ash borer that's in Sioux Falls currently, so we need to be removing stumps, and we're gonna have to start removing a lot more of them. We're way behind on them. The winter, the spring, we're behind. So I have a quote here, Sourcewell pricing for $60,450. That's a track loader with a 67 horsepower. A lot of people are using them now because they don't tear up the people's yards when you're removing the stumps. You can get into places where you cannot get certain stumpers at. That's about it for it.
Again, Jen, this is a budget item, but no reserve, correct?
Correct. No reserves on this one. It was only line item budgeted.
I think it was to come out of my equipment reserve, wasn't it? It was not.
You didn't add, I don't believe you added to the reserve because of this.
Yep.
But no, we have no reserves slated for this purchase. But we do have $64,000 in the budget.
You decided to go with the track one, you also be purchasing the trailer?
We can use the trailer that we currently have. Gary and I talked about it. We looked at the tow behind, and there wasn't enough difference in price. The tow behind one, I have the quote right here, is $58,000 and some change, and the track one is $60,000, and the the track unit would be way more user friendly. That's the main complaint that we have talked to people that have used the tow behind ones, is it takes an extra guy to back up.
Extra truck.
And that's
You know,
enough.
the tracks, you can go through the gate and go in the backyard. Not that we're going in people's backyards, but we'll be in parks and.
Yeah, doesn't tear it up.
Can you get one that mounts on a skid steer?
You can purchase ones that go on certain models of skid loaders. I can tell you this, I worked at Gale for 10 years and I seen what stumpers and tree cutters do to skid loaders. You don't want one on your skid loader.
Thank you.
Unless you want to replace a skid loader every 2 or 3 years.
Really?
Sure, why not?
So.
Yeah. All right. Sounds like you've given this a lot of thought. Thank you.
We looked at a 3-point hitch one, a model that went on the back of a tractor. Then in return, you're tying up that piece of equipment when it's not on the ball diamonds or doing in other places. So you have to have more equipment. So then you tie up more that way too.
I make a motion, we authorize purchase of the SC70TX stump cutter of the amount or up to the amount of $62,000 if you need a little cushion.
64?
We budgeted 64,000, but the bid's well under 64, 60,000.
In case you need a decal, flames on it or something.
Okay. Full tank of fuel or?
Yeah, there you go.
Emerald Ash Forest. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion?
This is not just an Emerald Ash Borer thing. There are other things. We need a better sumper. It was long, faster, more efficient. We will come forth with one more purchase in a couple of weeks. We can move on. But this kind of moves us along the directions that we need to go, so we can be more efficient with our equipment. Also, just like the garbage truck, so that's a little past this. Thank you.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Seeing we took number 4 off the agenda, we move down into number 5. Approve first reading ordinance number 1614, water rate and charges.
Thank
Thank you.
Mike.
All right, ordinance number 1614.
And Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Is in front of you. No verbiage changes to this year's resolution. What did change was some of the base rates. Under the direction of Commissioner Corbin, we have moved the 5/8 and 3/4 meters. The base rate increased by $2.50. On the 2-inch meter, the base rate increased by $2.58. On the 3-inch, the base increased by $14.07. And then on the 4-inch meters, the base increased by $83.93. We would move the extra meter charges from $14 to $15, and then have no change in the unit rate.
Said 14 to 15, Jen.
Correct.
Thank you.
We would expect this to generate about $1,850,000 worth of water revenue for the year 2020. Mr. Cortland?
So we're using what we call an equivalent meter ratio. That's why the 3/4 inch meter went up $2.50, and then the other one went up a little bit higher. 1-inch meters didn't go up as much. What I mean by equivalent meter ratio, like a 2-inch meter will let 4 times the amount of water flow through it that a 3/4 inch meter does. So we make them pay 4 times as much, right? You're paying for that capacity. I jotted some thoughts down here. I know how riveting it can be to talk about water rate increases, but our community and this commission has prioritized safe, reliable water. To ensure we can continue to meet these goals, we're adjusting the rates. We, the commission, are very mindful of affordability, as water is essential to survival, and living without it is not an option. Unlike cable, you can just cancel that bill. You have to pay the water bill. So the affordability is determined by the percentage of median household income that's dedicated to paying for water service. The federal government has determined that the Madison's median household income is $50,439, according to census.org. Based on that, our community pays less than 1.5% of median household income for water. The EPA uses a threshold of 3 to 5% of median household income as an index for affordability, so we're well below the territory of saying that our water isn't affordable. In saying that, I'm saying an average family that uses 6,000 gallons of water can expect their water bill to be a little over $47 in 2020. Any questions? Yeah.
I think you'd have a lot of discussion. There's a lot of households in this town that don't make $50,000 a year. I don't know where they get.
Well, do you know how median household works? So we line everybody up, and then we pick the middle person and whatever their household is. That's the median household.
But what exactly are you using all these rate increases for? I mean,
So we operate the system. We have operational expenses. We buy electricity. We pay people. We buy chemicals. We fix leaks. The majority of our expense is actually capital improvement, largely because of deferred maintenance. We've had past commissions that have decided we're not going to fix anything up. We're just going to keep rates low. Well, now we're paying for that. Part of it's going to go toward paying for the rural development project that's going to start this spring, and the other part is just annual upgrade projects. We try to line up water with wastewater and Second Cent to do street and stormwater, much like that's how West Center Street project was done. We used water money on Highway 34. Chad, what other projects we're going to throw out there?
Basically, any project that we have going with underground, the water main project
On 6th and
on 6th and Summit this
Mhm.
year, put a new water main on those, and then the streets were paid for, with the general fund / Second Cent dollars, and water fund paid for the water mains.
So we've identified, about 30 miles of cast iron pipe we need to replace in the next. We probably don't
As soon
have
as we
30 years
can.
of life left on them, but ideally we can get it done in 30 years. So we were shooting to get a mile of cast iron line replaced every year for the next 30 years. That's the expensive part of the water system.
but they're all going to affect the city budget. You're going to be asking for a lot more money.
Not really. What's a lot more money?
I don't know, you're the ones.
This year I'm asking for $2.50 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And That's water, then sewer, then electricity.
$2.50 a month.
And garbage.
Electric is 1%, but you're hopping ahead, George.
Well, no, but they're all
Yeah,
together,
they are.
you know?
I'll probably end up raising your utility bill on average $6 a month. Yeah.
And I can afford that, but a lot of people can't in this town.
We can't hold the whole community back. And that's based on usage. Say I'm a elderly person that lives by myself. My bill, I don't use 6,000 gallons of water. So I don't use 6,000 gallons of wastewater. So my bill would be a third of that. Just doing the math in my head. Don't quote me on that.
You know they're paying
About half of it's the minimum and half of it's based on your consumption, yeah. Well, what's affordable, George?
What's affordable?
Yeah.
I guess I would ask Jim to come up with a number of all the money you're gonna take in this year. Taxes, sales tax, and everything. And that's your budget. Live within that.
I will with $2.50 increase on water. Thank you.
Without that.
Well, that's how we got into our deferred maintenance crisis, is because previous commissions didn't raise rates. So now we got to pay more now. Anyway, I think it's affordable. I think it's a prudent thing to do.
Is there gonna be are we looking at these upgrades? So are we looking at like a 6-year plan or a 3-year plan here? Are we gonna go up next year or the year after?
We might, I take it 1 year at a time. We project out, and in the future, it does look like we have increases, but I got to see what happens through the course of the year. If the community grows and we have a larger base of users to pay for these upgrades, that will affect our increases.
For the kind of things we want to do this next year, this $2.50 increase supports, helps support that. Kind of upgrades we want to do.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to project, I understand what you're saying. I know what a dime used to buy when I was a kid. I know what a dime buys now. Inflation, 30 years from now, it might be $22.58. I don't know. But I do know that for the kind of things we want to get done, the upgrades we want to make, problems we want to solve for this next year, this goes largely to support that increase. I wish we could do that. I wish we had the fiscal infrastructure that we could say, this is how much we have, and this is what we use to not have to have increases, but we do. So.
Well, we have a lot of, even not just the upgrades. I mean, obviously the maintenance. Bob keeps talking about, we're popping water mains like popcorn, and that costs money to fix all of that too. I mean, it'd be nice if you could just throw it in and forget about it and walk away, but obviously that's not how this stuff works. And
Well, if we didn't have to repave the streets or do the stormwater or
great.
worry about the creeks, but I mean, all these assets need their funding source. So essentially, I'm looking to use user fees to cover the expenses of the utilities.
I guess this is just coming at a bad time of the cycle here, with people getting flooded out, losing a lot of their stuff, and then here we are, we're going to hook them again for water and sewer rates and electrical. I'm just not in favor of doing it at this time. I'm not saying we don't need something down the road, but a lot of people lost a lot of stuff 6 weeks ago, and I just hate to see us nickel and dime them to death when they're trying to get back on the feet.
I don't, how's it nickel and dime,
Well, this is taking a lot of money out of their pocketbook that they got to go back and buy stuff to replenish their belongings, their furniture and stuff.
I don't,
We don't have nothing coming in from FEMA yet. We don't know what FEMA or what their insurance is gonna do.
I don't disagree with you, Commissioner Corbin, on, yeah, we should have did something with our roads and infrastructure probably 15, 20 years ago, but, or more. Obviously, the past, I'm not putting the blame on the past commissioners or mayors, but yeah, it should have been done a long time ago, and we probably wouldn't have this issue coming up.
I agree.
But, you know, I always look at these rates, these minimum rates. And I'll take my business for, I use 2 units of water. And I pay $24.10 for the maintenance, and I pay 23 cents of usage.
So the 23 cents is for the actual water.
Yeah.
So in my perfect world, your minimum would cover your capital expenses, and we're pretty close to that. So that's the $24. It'll be $26.60 in 2020. You're paying to have that faucet there that delivers water that meets the Safe Drinking Water Act 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That's why you're paying that minimum. And then whatever you use for water, that meter turns and you pay for that. If you didn't want to have a water meter, I guess you could, go down to the plant and you can, what is that, $3 a thousand?
Yeah.
And you don't pay up, you don't have to pay the minimum.
I guess I'm getting ahead of.
Comment?
Yes.
I think you guys, I've listened to what Bob said, it cost me a lot of money up there too, and what you're doing is penalizing the people who are in the flood.
I'm not penalizing you. We can't put the upgrades for the water system on hold because we had a natural
You can't keep
disaster.
jabbing people.
I'm not jabbing you.
You should have maybe thought
You're
that
jabbing
before you
me.
bought cars with us then. What would that be?
Well, that was general fund money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speak to the rates, that's what we're doing.
I think you should consider this.
I don't think I'm not considering it, Bob, is saying that. I have neighbors who lost, I see it. The department that I am the liaison for the commission, we picked up a lot of garbage, and it was pretty devastating. And one of the main things that I wanted to do was get that stuff out of people's yards so we could get a sense that we're moving on. Believe me, I understand. It went out for a day and a half with garbage with myself, and I understand how devastating that looks. But when we get a water main break, and we're cast iron pipe deteriorating, I understand completely. But we have a responsibility. That's the hard part of being in public office, and really, this is a commission meeting in public. But so I'm talking to you guys. That's the hard part. I learned that on the school board, and I learned that even further here. On one hand, we have to look at what we have to take care of now, which is, as Bob often says, it's the taxpayers. What can we ask them? And what is fair to ask them? We also have to look at where we're going and what shape we want to leave the city in when we leave this table, whether it's in a year or 5 years or 10 years or whatever. And that always doesn't fit together perfectly. It just doesn't always fit together perfectly. But that's what it comes down to. When we start hitting the budget cycle, I can remember I said that last year, this is not the pretty part of being the commissioner. It's not. Looking at projects like the LAIC and those came fun, those are kind of fun things to look at. Well, they're few and far between. This is where the tire really hits the pavement for us. Yeah, George, I'm giving a great speech here.
But what, I know this is off the subject, and I know you don't want to listen to
George,
this.
will you come to the mic, please, so everybody
I know you
can
don't
hear,
want to listen to this,
please?
but what Jim is trying to say is we need to replace a lot of water lines, a lot of sewer lines. We spent $750,000 buying an East River building and buying cars for less building. We could have been fixing those things that are necessary instead of that. Do you understand?
I understand.
I mean, you spent over $1 million. My God, how much good you got done for that, fixing water lines and sewers?
Well, we have to park our.
It'd be about a little over a mile. It'd be 1 year's It'd be 1 year, so instead of a 32-year project, it'd be a 31-year project.
Yeah, it's just, I guess what we're trying to say is the priority of things you've bought that maybe the taxpayers don't feel you should have bought, but I know that's up to you guys. You're the ones that did it, you know, so.
Thank you.
And I'm really trying to say, some buildings are falling down around us, you know? You have to look to the future for that. And I don't want to get into a debate, George, about the merits of that. And I understand what I just want you to know, I understand what Jim's saying, I understand what you're saying. But we have to look at where we're at now and what we need to do now, and also be able to say when we hand the baton off to the next group, we're looking pretty good for physical plant facilities too.
You're right, though. What we spend money on is a big deal. I mean, it's the community's resources, and the 5 of us get to decide how they're put to use. And it's probably our biggest responsibility, frankly.
Like I said, I'm probably getting ahead, and I see electric rates on the budget, on here too. I guess I look at it, because we all know parks is not a moneymaker for us. We always have to supplement it with electric funds. And here we're going out buying a stumper with no reserve. It was put on budget, and now the next thing we're going to do is raise your rates. Do we actually need that stumper? Can we get by with the old one? I don't think they're saying that we don't need that, but do we need it at this point in time?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, at what point does maintaining old stumper cost more than buying a new one? Or old one's so inefficient that you could get 4 times the amount of work done? I don't know, Marshall.
Those are
we rely that
discussions.
on our department heads to make those decisions.
And those are some of the discussions that are done during budget time. I'll say no more.
Okay.
And that item was.
I'll make a motion to approve first reading ordinance number 1614, water rates and charges.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Jen, any further comment, discussion? We'll take a roll call vote on this. Jen?
All right, Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Corbett?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Updell?
Nay.
And Mayor Denner?
Nay. Move into number 6, approve first reading ordinance number 1615, electrical rates and charges.
All right, you have then before you ordinance number 1615. It is 4 pages long. We went up 1% on all of the base rates and the unit charges. Some small cleanup in section 1, that last couple sentences there. The revenue generated from the surcharge shall be used solely for improvements and any bonds incurred by the city to finance or refinance the improvements. Improvements may also be paid from the general revenues of the electric utility as approved by the annual budget. Just some cleanup language there. Otherwise, verbiage remained, and again, all of the rates and the unit fees went up 1%. We would expect these changes to afford approximately $9.6 million in revenue for the electric utility for year 2020.
What did we have this year? Revenue? Or on track to?
We are on track at the end of September. We were at 74%. So we're right on track. Actually, I looked this afternoon, and October was a really good month. We took in a lot of electric revenue in October. So we should be well on track to meeting our budget this year.
And what were we estimating last year that we were?
About 9.5.
What's that?
Right? About 100,000 less.
I thought it was
9.7.
9.7, okay.
9.750. Yep.
And our increase last year was 0%?
The last 2 years have been 0.
The year before that was 1%. 2016 was 1.5%. Kelly, our first year on the commission, was a 2.7% rate increase. So it's been really stable for the last 5 years.
Did Heartland go up at all, or East River?
East River's gone up about basically, I think every other year, the last few years, they've gone up on their transmission fees. SPP has gone up, and then it's kind of stayed stable, and it went back up again this year a little bit. That's our transmission from the bulk system, if you will, and then that gets it to the substations, and then from the substations in, we pay a pancake rate on the ones that are not network serviced. It gets kind of complicated. Network serviced out of SPP, so we pay a pancake rate to East River to bring that power from the substations to the city. And that has gone up, like say, over the last few years, it's gone up, it was $1.40, I think we're at $1.55, and I think there's a projection to go up to $1.65 a kW. So I mean, it's going up substantially over the last few years. SPP, when I first started, I think our transmission budget was right at like $600,000, and our transmission budget now is like $1.2 million because of those changes. So we've taken a $600,000 hit in the last 4 years, and we've really, that'd be a 6% increase in rates, and we haven't done that. So we've trimmed some fat, if you will, in the electric budget. We haven't been putting money away as fast as we were, and we've kept the rates down, but that's, it has cost something to the electric. We haven't kept the bottom line as good as it was prior to this. And so that's something that, we can do it for a short period of time, but we have to get back to putting some money back in to the system and being able to move forward. If you look at it from a cash perspective, out of the three, the water, sewer, and the electric, as a percentage of the total amount of budget, annual budget, the electric is substantially lower in the amount of cash that it has on hand. So of all of them that I'm worried about as far as cash, electric is the one that I'm worried about because it has some very high dollar components similar to the treatment plants for both water and sewer. And so we need to have some cash on hand in case we need to do any repairs or maintenance to those types of things. So the bottom line is that if we look at where we should be for cash, we're probably about that $600,000 short of where we really need to be the last time I looked at it, if I remember correctly, so on our target.
That answer your question?
Yeah, but I don't like it.
I don't really see anybody's minds changing. I'm going to make a motion to approve first reading, ordinance number 1615, electric rates and charges.
Second. I got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not. Jen, will you take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Corbin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Nay.
and Mayor Danner.
Nay. Number 7, approve first reading ordinance number 1616, water user rates. Excuse me.
All right, no verbiage changes here. For 2020, the residential fixed was increased by $2.50. The commercial fixed was increased by $5. The same here, the extra meter increased from $14 to $15, and once again, no unit change. We would expect these rates to generate about $1,765,000 of revenue for year 2020.
How much did you say?
$1,765,000.
I'll make a motion to approve first reading, ordinance number 1616, wastewater user rates.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not. Jen, will you take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Nay.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Corbin,
Aye.
and Mayor Danner.
Nay. Number 8, approve first reading ordinance number 1617, restricted use site fee.
We raised the price of tires by 50 cents a tire. Pickup loads raised to $18 a load. And if you haul it in by any other means, $12 a cubic yard.
Would you state, Gary, what the current fees are?
$15 a pickup load, $10 a cubic yard, and each one of those tires is 50 cents. So $1.50 for a car tire, $2.50 for a light truck tire, and $6.50 for a semi truck tire.
For a tractor
Yeah.
tire, we went just straight across the board for 20, right?
There was quite a few different sizes. We just took it to 8. It was 18 to 20. We just rounded it up to 20. We don't get very many tractor tires out there. So.
And that section 915 there hasn't been changed for a long time.
That $18 a load, I think we got that from Sioux Falls landfill. That's what they charge. They're a little different on their, they don't go by cubic yards, they go by weight. So I think we're fairly close on that $12 per yard.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 1617. Excuse me. Yeah, that's correct. 1617 for the restricted use site fees.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any more comment or discussion? If not, Jen, will you take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallner?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Corbin?
Aye.
And Dennis?
Aye. Public comment.
I would like
Thanks, Gary.
I'd like to speak.
I'd like to say thank you to Commissioner Corbin and Commissioner Johnson for working on these fees here. As was stated earlier, that's not an easy thing to do, so good work on that, guys.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pat, state your name and your topic, and this meeting's went on quite a long time, so we're going to limit 3 minutes.
No problem.
Okay.
My name is Patrick Mullen. I live at 831 East Center Street, Madison, South Dakota. I am asking that this commission obtain a copy of Robert's Rules of Order and have them at your desk. I have witnessed tonight that this commission did not follow proper protocol. End of my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It must have been Dick Erickson. Jen?
I believe so.
Okay. Seeing no further public comment, I do have one announcement.
Marshall.
Yeah.
Hello. Could I say something?
Yeah. Come on up to the mic. State your name.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Sherry Eliason on behalf of 2nd Street Diner, 610 South Washington Avenue. We are concerned about if you guys can help us with when our road might be opened. We are 6 weeks past the deadline of September 28th of having through traffic.
Let me start by saying thanks for sitting through the meeting.
Yes.
Chad, do you have any update on when 34 is going to be done?
DOT, trying to think of the last meeting. We have a meeting weekly, and there was some gentlemen there from the public also pressuring the DOT, expressing frustration that most particularly the railroad tracks are not open because that was unforeseen circumstances with the railroad changing up some items on the state, so to speak, and I use the term changing up, something that the state had indicated they are not familiar with dealing with the new blockage arms, that you can't have 2 lanes of traffic on one side because there needs to be an arm there. And that was a new thing for the DOT. And so, as you can imagine, that contractor was trying to react to the DOT's terms and railroad's terms, BNSF's terms, so that they couldn't proceed like had originally been planned to put both lanes of traffic on there. So that has been incredibly challenging for the community. I think Ms. Eliason and many others, some of the people, other business along there know. But as far as when they'll get it open, they had hoped perhaps by the end of this week. One thing you'll notice that obviously they've been trying very diligently to try to get that center turn lane and the main paving completed on the highway. And on the north end of the tracks, they want to get all the different accesses in, but they had hoped maybe by the end of this week to actually get the railroad crossing open. But as you may or may not know, the DOT is in charge of their phasing plan, the traffic control plan. We meet again on a weekly basis formally, but much more coordination other than those meetings to try to press them. At the end of the day, it's how the DOT reacts to the outside circumstances of railroad, foreign utilities. Weather is what impacts the schedule. So.
So what's the answer? You've been talking a lot, but I don't hear an answer. What are we doing here?
We're coordinating with the DOT. It's not up to me.
That's still not an answer.
I understand
What is
that.
the answer?
It's not up to me or the city to make this happen. I mean, the work is there, and so
Who can make it happen, and why isn't it happening?
it's a DOT project, and the DOT is in control.
You're gonna have to come up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the DOT is pressing their contractor as best they can to get it open. So all I can, I don't want to, for the sake.
I'm her husband, Blaine. So, I mean, what can you guys do to speed this up? Because we've already been 6 weeks past the due date, and I don't know why Casey's and the lumberyard is in here down you guys' throats, because they don't have any access since May, April.
Right.
I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I think you were trying to state some things that were going on
Right.
here.
But the city is involved in it some.
Of course, yes. We have underground utilities. It's a two-part project,
Right.
as you've been familiar. I'm unfortunately intimately familiar with the city's underground work that's coordinated into the DOT's phasing package. And so our contractor, which is the same contractor as the DOT's, does all the underground. And once we get ours complete, which we've been, I should have the date exact, we've been complete for 3-4 weeks now, then of course you can see the surfacing. They're getting the surfacing done, the grading and the pavement and such like that.
And
it's just a matter of the DOT being responsive, and we're partners with the DOT, so I want to continue to be as constructive as possible, but at the same time expressing the concerns that our citizens and our, the commission and everybody has.
I mean, how are you going to plow that if they don't get it open or done?
They're confident they'll get it done, and it's likely, the final details remain to be seen as to what will be done, but it's likely many of the sidewalks will not be done.
Well,
if it is done, we'll pick it up in the middle. If not, and there's an opportunity where there's no sidewalks that'll be damaged by breaking it off to the side, that may be part of the option as well. Trust me, we're as frustrated sometimes. As
You're
no,
not.
You're not.
You're not.
Mark, Chad made the comment that we're partners with DOT, but we're the junior partner.
Right.
But
Or like captive to the DOT.
It's a state highway.
It's a state highway. We are fortunate in that they dig out, they dig the highway out, we're able to get to our utilities and those things. That for us is a great thing. But we as he said, we're on schedule.
Yeah.
you know, and
They're
I
welcome
don't
to
want
meet
to bash DOT either.
No, we
but
don't
they
either.
are, you know, I don't
We've
know
been
to answer your
just-
question, Sherry, I don't know there's a way we can speed it up. We are subject basically to what's going on with
The meeting's Wednesday at 9:30 in this room, so you're
right.
more than welcome to come in and
Yeah.
talk with the contractor and with the
recommend
DOT,
you
and
come.
I highly recommend you come do it and bring all your friends. But they're as frustrated as we are, the contractor.
No, see, they're not, because they're getting paid and we aren't.
No.
Well,
Now, they're getting paid to do their road part. We are not getting paid to do their road part.
I understand.
You understand?
I understand that. They're also paying labor for another 60-some days that they didn't have
They're
in their
still getting
schedule.
paid.
So it's costing them money, too.
It's,
They,
we're-
I know. They want it done as bad or
No.
as anybody else. I know it doesn't sound that right, but trust me, they are not making any money right now.
well, then who's gonna put the
Join the
width to
club.
'em?
I understand.
Well, Wednesday,
And we're all
Wednesday,
frustrated.
9:30, come, please.
Yes, please.
Show up, and bring some of the other, somebody
I
else.
mean,
with
do they have
businesses
fines they
that
gotta
are-
pay if they're not done on time? I mean, what's
Yeah,
going on here?
Yes.
Again, through the DOT contract, they're in charge of the phasing and so on.
So is
like that.
DOT gonna
And
pay the fine then, or what's the what's the holdup?
They have liquidated damages where if they don't meet the overall completion date or any interim phase completion date, they keep track of each day, and it's laid out in the contract of what those damages are. I don't have all the details on that contract with the DOT, but I do know there's day count limits on each and every phase. When they have to get this phase open or that phase open, there's 3 main phases, I believe, and probably within most of them, there's at least 2 sub-phases to each of those. And so,
It's-
yes, indeed.
It's 6 weeks late.
It is frustrating,
And there's a big sign on the 34 that says, "Don't go down that street." I mean, people, it's hard. And I understand that you guys aren't, it's not all your thing, but at the same time, there's a sign out there that says, "Don't turn north and come through town." And so it's not just us, it's affecting a lot of people. And we feel especially close to that right now after, 8 months of struggle. So it has been. It's been a tough summer for everyone. So, but we wanted you guys to know that we're still out there and we're struggling.
Appreciate that. It's time now. We're done. We've put a brave face on everything, and it's good for the community, and we understand that. But it's done. It's time now. We're done.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Please come to the meeting, or even talk to. You may have met some of the staff there.
I talk to them all the time.
Yeah,
But
we'll continue to keep pressuring as well.
I mean, can we just go back and forth on it? So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the gallery that wants to make a comment? If not,
Can I make a point of information?
I do, yeah, go ahead.
This was first reading tonight on those 4 ordinances. 2 weeks to the
Yes, please.
second reading. We
Second
failed to
reading,
mention
2 weeks
that,
from tonight.
Announcement, I do know Chad his department has been getting some calls. I have been getting calls. I didn't realize that there are still people out there that didn't have their gas turned on yet. And just wanted to let you guys know, Northwestern, when they call Northwestern to get it turned on, Northwestern directs them towards the city, because my understanding, some of the cities have a person right on staff that will go out and check these appliances, make sure they're safe before Northwestern will turn on the gas. City of Madison is not one of them cities. So I just wanted to make it clear, if you're still needing your gas turned on, and Northwestern saying you need your appliances checked, you need to hire a plumber or an HVAC person to come in, and all they have to do is either, Northwestern said, either have them put okay on the appliances with the date, or have them write a letter, we checked these on this date, they're good to go. And Northwestern should come in, but that is not on the city.
But I think the letter doesn't, or the okay doesn't come to us, does it?
What's that?
Well, you said put
No,
okay and date.
that letter or the okay on the appliances, when you get that from your plumber or whoever's doing it, that goes right directly to Northwestern when they come to turn it on, because they're gonna ask you. But that is something that City of Madison does not have.
I believe part of that you'd mentioned when you talked to them, Montana.
Montana,
perhaps,
yes.
I believe it's related to what communities adopt the state plumbing code and have their own, what communities have their own plumbing inspectors. To my knowledge, only Rapid City and Sioux Falls have their own plumbing inspectors. Otherwise, everybody else relies on the state plumbing code and the state inspectors. And so it's just not something we or the vast majority of South Dakota communities do.
Is there any other comments or announcements?
I was just going to make the announcement that Wednesday, November 6th, is hopefully the final hearing of the summer study for municipal services in extraterritorial areas, annexation for electric. So plan to be there in Pier on the 6th.
How about a change of meeting date, gentlemen, that didn't hit your agenda cover? Next Monday is November 11th. We normally move that to the 12th. Are you okay with that?
Actually, I can't come on the 12th.
Fine with me.
No, I think we need to go ahead and move ahead. 12.
12?
Give some deadlines to meet.
Okay. Seeing no executive session.
Unless you want to do
We have a question, Gary? Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you, Jen, for picking that up. No executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. I know it's late.